Hello, how are you? My name is Iretiola and you're welcome to the show. Now, I don't know about you, but because my life is constantly on the go, I absolutely cannot do without my radio. That's where I get my news, that's where I get the latest information, and it's an absolute lifesaver in those tedious hours in Lagos traffic. I have my favorite stations and I have some of my favorite people, and I sometimes tend to wonder, who are they behind the mic? Now, our first profile is on the big man that holds us down during the rush hour on a very popular Lagos radio station.
My full name is Chukwuma Aligwekwe, but everybody calls me Chico. I'm a radio presenter and an actor. It's really colorful. I went to 3 primary schools, 4 secondary schools, and 3 universities. Yes, it's because we moved around a lot. So I started my education in the UK, then finished secondary school and university education here. Then it's back to the UK for a bit more uni, and then my work life. I'm the program director for Classic FM. I also am a presenter on the station. I do the drive time show.
Expected turbulence can hit you, and it just hit you right there. We kicked it off with Sherelle featuring Alexander O'Neill and Saturday Love. Carrie Lucas weighed in with Show Me Where You're Coming From, and we just listened to Lisa Stansfield and You Can't Deny It. One thing you can't deny is that it's great listening to a station that plays you every song you know.
I've always wanted to be an actor, and I have this memory of liking Roger Moore. So I'd watch The Saint, The Persuaders. I loved him in the James Bond. He's my favorite James Bond. It's my dream to be an actor has indeed come. I've done my first feature-length movie, A Soldier's Story, and then I've been on part of the Tinsel cast for a while. This with pride, that your husband has been chosen to serve this great nation. Don't forget, he's not alone in this sacrifice. You too are bearing a huge sacrifice here. Not just you, but every other woman out there whose husband is on the field in active service. Is radio presenting different from acting, or are they the same thing? This might sound like a bit of an oxymoron, but they're very different. But you need the skills from each one to do the other, so it's linked. The main difference really is that on radio they can't see you, so there's stuff you can get away with, but on the camera sees you, and so there's stuff that you cannot get away with. Having said that, radio will find you out. What you want first is that as people are surfing stations, they come across your voice, and the voice is captivating to start with, and so they will pause. Then it becomes about the substance. Is there anything? Is this person entertaining? Are they giving out information that's relevant to me? Do I need to hear it? And so you need to be almost like a sponge and soak up whatever it is that's going on out there, so that you can be a bit of a reference point for stuff that is going on. If you've got those 2 elements, you've got to have a presence, because it's a performance you're putting on. Out there somewhere is someone who's just lost their job, their house, their car, who's in a really bad place. And your job is to pick this person up, is to entertain this person and give them a bit of an escape, just for a little while. If you've got that sort of personality and can put the other things together, then yeah, you're well on your way to becoming a good radio presenter.
This is the Drive Time Show on Classic FM 97.3. We've got about 13 minutes before we kick off tonight's court session. It's judge and jury. I'm typing this in on our Facebook page. As soon as I'm done with that, I'll read the case out to you. It will be over to you to tweet, text, phone in, or post on our Facebook page and give me a guilty or not guilty verdict, depending on how you interpret the details on the facts of the case on tonight's show.
Does being knowledgeable and educated play a major role in being a good broadcaster? Well, yes. But having said that, I will hasten to add that there are tricks. So you're on the radio and no one can see you. Remember I said that. And because no one can see you, you've got computers around you, and so something's going on and you're constantly looking at it on there, and you sound like this encyclopedia, because at the punch of a button with quick internet, you can bring up that information very quickly, and you're giving it out. And if you've got that personality and the skill to turn on a performance, you will do it, and it will sound like it's coming from you. Now, when you'll be found out is if the internet goes down, and so you don't have that reference, but you've still got to run a show. So this is why the very best ones, yes, they will be knowledgeable, and education helps, because unless you're one of these pigeon-speaking radio stations, but if it's an English-speaking radio station, then you don't want to be on there and cutting up the English. So you need to be articulate. You need to know how to get what you want to say across, and the target audience that you're communicating with is important too. They're likely to be educated as well, and so you've got to have the right language to communicate with them and have some idea of the subject matter that you're treating. So it's a constant learning process. It's a little bit like being a lawyer in some ways, even though you can ride it now and again. But getting back to basics, yes, you must have an education, you must be articulate, and have your finger on the pulse with regards to what's going on out there. If you come on the radio trying to be someone else, radio will find you out. So be yourself. There's a lot of these young people on the radio who aren't really who they are. They come on the radio and you're acting, and you put on an accent and you put on a performance, and you can't keep it going. There'll be areas where it will drop, and the sentence construction will find you out. You will use words that people who come from where it is that you're putting on that accent from don't normally use, and those things will find you out. I listen to some of it and I'm like, and that would be the very first thing. Be yourself. You'll put on a better performance if you're you, and if you stay very close to who you really are. Radio isn't for everybody. Do some research on subjects so that you've got a bit of a basic knowledge about the things that you're going to do. Some of our radio stations, sadly, don't put the right support network in place for presenters, and so you've got a presenter, and that presenter is the producer of their show, they are the researcher of their show, they are the ones who develop the content and so on, and so that can be a bit much. And so young presenters, a lot of the young ones get into the habit of just coasting. So you're just going to go on the radio and, okay, I'm just going to coast for a little while, sort of thing. And so you haven't actually put the work in. Trust me, you will be found out. The trained ear will find you out. There are things that can make a radio show good. If it's got to be entertaining, it's got to be informative, and it should give you and educate you. And if those things meet in equal measure, then it just makes for good radio.
53% of the verdicts that came in tonight went one way, and 47% went the other. So really close. However, that 53% said not guilty. So, hey, National Association of Keke, I haven't got your back. I've got no love for you. And so I'm pretty delighted that that's the way things went. I'll be heading on out of here real soon.
Contemporary Nigerian youth is up there. There's really little difference between that person and the child in the UK or in the United States. The main difference would be the field that they're playing in. If the government could play their part, I think there'd be little difference between here and there. The contemporary Nigerian woman is very, very strong. They are. And what I said about the kids, it applies here a little bit, and I wish that it didn't in some respects, because I'm this might sound like a contradiction, but I'm a traditionalist, and I believe in the traditional roles of each gender. And I think if everybody played their position, we'd all get along quite fine. But there are certain things that our contemporary Nigerian women take on board that I'm thinking don't serve us well. If you meet someone for the very first time and you look at their feet first, trust me, the way in which you assess, perceive, and even relate to this person will be very different from how you would do if you took in their face first. Try it. Pet peeve number 2 would be missing a Manchester United match. Pet peeve number 3 is something that relates to things that I can't stand. I hate garlic. Style is, whatever is the mood that I'm in, that's how I'm going to dress. Fashion suicide would be orange trousers. Ladies in twisted or dreadlock hair. Things that can distract you on the road to success. I'd start with bad friends. Lack of self-belief. This belief that the older generation, starting with your parents and outwards, would ever misguide you. They won't. They've been there, they've done it, they've got the t-shirt. Listen to them. They will be the foundation that you build anything on. That's why they're there. That's why they're in your life. Listen to what they have to say. You will rely on it and depend on it someday, and you'll come to realize that it was always the truth, and you'll come to appreciate that it's what gave you the platform. Leave someone with an impression, a good impression about myself every time I walk in, so that when I walk out, that impression lingers.
Finally, you get to put a face to that name, yeah? Thank me later. Okay, we're going to take a short break, and then we'll be back with the rest of our show. Our next feature is on a dapper gentleman. He is a photographer, a visual artist, a filmmaker, and an art connoisseur.
I'm Akin Kongi. I'm what you call a filmmaker photographer. I do both. I grew up in Ibadan. I think I was in Ibadan till I went to do my A-levels in England. And after that, I studied in England. I did business and finance. and then later studied insurance. Most children wanted to be like their fathers in my time. So if their father was a lawyer or an accountant, they wanted to be an accountant or a lawyer. So in my case, my dad was an insurance man. So it was kind of, I think I wanted to go against the grain a little bit, but that's probably why I did business and finance first, and then before I went to do insurance. So but eventually I still did insurance, and my dad had an insurance company, so I came back to work with him. When I went to England to study, my brother was already there, my older brother. So he now said, he has a camera, he had which was a very good camera in those days. It's called the Olympus OM10. And he used to take pictures, and I used to be quite keen to see what he did with the camera. So I used to borrow his camera. But you know how siblings can be like, I mean, he wants to use it, I want to use that. I think I got my pocket money for another term or something like that, and I just went into a camera shop and I bought an OM30, which is the latest one of the one he had. And that was the beginning of my photography career, so to speak. I started investing in films. Even though I was still taking pictures, I've always taken pictures, even if I had breaks. But like with films, I started investing in films. A cousin came to me and said, I can invest this amount of money in film and I'll get that amount. Never happened. But that's beside the point. So I started investing in it. By the time they got me to invest in the films, they now said I should invest in equipment, which is how I ended up in film school. Because after a while, I thought, if I'm doing this, I already know about cameras and I already do photography. I might as well learn more about film. So I kind of sent myself back to school. I feel the entertainment industry has a huge potential and a lot of things can be corrected. I'm a businessman as well, so basically from the business aspect, I've looked at it and see the possibilities. What I decided when I was coming into the industry was not going to do what the norm was. If you do what the norm is, then you're just joining the bandwagon. That's when you now end up with the same situations, you deal with the same problems, you deal with the Alaba people, you deal with this, and you go through that circle of things. What I had to see was something different and the potential of being able to do the business in a better way and a more honest way and a process that would earn you a decent living from it. The potential is there. I think the problem is actually us as people, in the industry as well, to actually see what we need to do, deal with it, and move on with what we're trying to do. Art and business, yes. That's one of the things I've made my own to try and deal with and try and do. I understand the business world, and I'd like to think that I'm one of the art world people as well. So as an artist, I try and bring my business experience into what I do. I'm also in the process of doing what will become a yearly event whereby I can bring business people together with art people and make them understand one another and see that they can both benefit. If you don't develop your art, you don't invest in your art, you don't protect your art, that's why it gets carried away to some other countries. And then they appreciate it and they keep it and they were thinking, how did he get there? We need to start putting value on our own art. We need to start protecting our own art and appreciating our own art, be it poetry, film, literature, painting, photography, you name it. Everything we need to start to learn. 3 things artists do wrong when they present themselves to the corporate world. 1, we're not professional enough half the time. We don't show enough professionalism. 2, we look like we're begging half the time. So they don't understand what we're trying to sell to them or what value you can add to them. So it's like they're doing you a favor. I mean, that shouldn't be it. A 3rd one. 3rd one that we need to change. It shouldn't be syndrome me, myself, and I too is the industry. So if you find one person that's gotten it right, he doesn't want to show it to the rest of the people. He feels he needs to protect it because he feels like, oh yeah, if I show it to the rest of the world, I would lose out. It's a big industry. You can't lose out. It's more people who are successful in this industry, the bigger it's going to get. So people need to realize that. But choose a path. Be clear about your path. 2, make sure it can sustain you. See sustainability in what you're trying to do. And 3rd one, you have to want to do it. It can't be just because of the money. You must have passion. I think like the average young Nigerian woman is changing, but too slowly. I think they're lazy. They want the easy way out, and they feel like they need to be dependent on somebody. And like I always tell people, if you're dependent on your parents, and you now leave, you want to be dependent on a boyfriend, they're dependent on a husband, and you have the same education, the same background, the same everything, it's a bit, you're already putting yourself on the back foot. You already put yourself at a disadvantage, not just with the man you're with, but to the world itself. You need to be able to be independent and see, like I said, see yourself as an individual rather than somebody that my whole life needs to depend on a man. And I think that's one of the reasons why the inequality between man and woman is still there around here, because women themselves need to try and say, look, you know what, I can do what a man can do. Personal. My biggest flaw. People call me arrogant, even though I don't think I am. And if I don't like the word arrogant, I don't think I am. But if I have to pick a flaw, I guess that would be, maybe I'm a little bit arrogant. Impediment. Lack of understanding of what you're doing. Laziness, if you are lazy. And if you get knocked down, get up and go again. I think that's one of the biggest problems. Always pull yourself up and go again. There's always going to be that problem. People are going to knock you down. People are going to tell you can't do this, but it's not going to be possible. Get up, dust yourself off, and move on. Be good. Be who you are. Don't do unto others what you don't want done unto you.
And so we come to the end of another edition of our show. You know what to do. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. We're more than willing to engage. Now, I'm going to come your way with another exciting edition of the show. Until then, look after yourselves and let's be kind to one another.